What's up everyone, you're watching another episode of Caffeine and Creators. Now this one's a little bit special to me because I like Star Wars probably a little bit more than the next guy. And we're just a testicle's hair away from the Han Solo movie. That was a weird sentence to say. And truth be told, I'm a little bit on my edge but not for the right reason. And I forgot my glasses. Admittedly, most of this video is going to be based on speculation. Mostly due to the fact that, you know, the movie's not out, and the only source material we kind of have to go by is Legends, which is just Legends at this point, as the House of Mouse decided to axe all the previous Star Wars canon. Still, not something I'm too salty about anymore. They seem to have not touched my favourite parts of Star Wars. Admittedly, what we've seen in trailers has actually given us a fair amount of detail into what the film's going to be about. Obviously, we know he meets Chewbacca in this film. At least, it's safe to assume that. Especially seeing as in the canons, he met him while he was already in the Imperial Academy. And we see him in this latest trailer, or one of the latest trailers, joining the Imperial Academy. So if it's any somewhat like Legends, that is what we're going to get. It's also going to be very likely that we're going to witness the famous game of Sabacc that sees Han Solo winning the Millennium Falcon in a totally didn't cheat game of Sabacc. Obviously, it looks like we're also going to see him joining Beckett's crew as a smuggler, and hopefully, just hopefully, we're going to get to see the 12 Parsec Kessel Run. And obviously, major story details are going to be locked behind, you know, actually seeing the film. However, we can speculate based on the litany of knowledge we've accumulated through the Legends. And if what Ahsoka said is true, there's a little bit of truth in Legends. Obviously in Legends, Han joined the Imperial Navy as he desired to be a pilot, and scored with flat-out brilliant grades, although not so well in others. During Han's second year, he was put under Commander Niklus? I think that's how you pronounce it. After boarding his new ship, he realised that the cargo wasn't quite an inanimate object, but instead Wookiee children and slave workers. See, the Imperials needed a heavy labour force, and what better to do the heavy lifting than an army of slave Wookiees. Han then eventually found a wounded Wookiee in the pilot's chair trying to steal the ship. Of course, we know who this is. Chewbacca was obviously high priority at that point, because he'd obviously tried stealing their ship. So he is put under personal command of this asshole slave-driving commander. So this gaping asshole of a person is beating Chewie. Obviously, we know that Han will not have this. So he shoots and knocks out the commander. Chewbacca endows Han with the Wookiee life debt, ensuring that he will never leave his side. They fled and become the dynamic duo of smugglers and war heroes that we know today. We obviously know that in both Legends and Disney canon that Han does join the Imperial Academy, and hopefully, just hopefully, we get to see this awesome scene play out in the new movie. Beckett's character looks like something very reminiscent of an old Legends character called Shrike. who found Han while he was rummaging through garbage on his home planet of Corellia. Han didn't have any memory of his past life, and joined Shrike upon his ship Trader's Luck. Han eventually worked himself up in the criminal underworld that brought him up. Started as a pickpocketer, ended as a smuggler. Han wanted to know more of his past life, and although Shrike knew everything, he was not saying a word. Eventually, Dwellana, a Wookiee cook on the ship, helped Han in finding his true identity. She told him that he is actually a descendant from the famous Solo line. He took this information and ran away to Corellia to find out more about who he was, where he eventually found his Aunt Tion and his cousin Thraken. Turns out they were assholes. And Tion was quite certainly fucking mad. Thraken had actually sold Han to Shrike, so at the end of the day, he's back to square one. He did end up having to join the Trader's Luck again, for he had no other option, but he didn't stay very long. He formed an escape plan, and almost succeeded, if it weren't for his soft side. He had to personally say goodbye to Dwellana, the Wookiee that once set him on his path to find out who he really was, his only real friend he had left. However, Shrike eventually appeared behind him, and there was very little he could do, but the Wookiee stepped in the way, and sacrificed herself to save Han, allowing him to escape. Han refused to let this debt go unpaid, but it'll have to wait. I don't imagine the film taking this route. It's long and requires a much younger version of Han, which it doesn't look like we're going to get. But it would be really cool to see Beckett go the way of full treacherous Shrike, because obviously he's not adverse to treachery. Four words. Kessel Run, 12 parsecs. What does this all mean? You didn't even have to have watched Star Wars to know that the Kessel Run was made in 12 parsecs by the Millennium Falcon, the first ship to do so. But what is the Kessel Run? What does this all mean? The Kessel Run is a hyperspace route that the Pike Syndicate used to transport spice from spice mines. It was initially forged by smugglers just throwing their lives away and throwing their heads into this stupid endeavour of a highly dangerous, unmarked territory. So with that in mind, keep that here, back of your head, and we gotta talk about Han real quick. Han eventually started working for Jabba. I don't know when exactly, but obviously he did. Han learnt the hard way you don't want to piss these slugs off, because when the Imperials came after Han, he had to drop his delivery for Jabba, and that really didn't sit well with Slugface. He very quickly ended up with a 50,000 credit debt on his head. Debt? Sorry, bounty. In order to repay Jabba, Han took a job with the Pike Syndicate to deliver spice along the Kessel Run. Han took advantage of his second-to-none piloting skills and his good old trusty ship, the Millennium Falcon, to make the Kessel Run in 12, not the normal 18 parsecs. Admittedly, he almost got everybody on board killed, but that's, besides the point. He did this by flying never seen before close to black holes and living to tell the tale about it. A common misconception is that parsecs are time. Really here it's distance, where he cut an entire third off his Kessel Run. So if we're going to see the iconic scene where Han does win the Millennium Falcon, we're obviously going to see it run through Sabak, at least if they follow the legends. I think it's going to be pretty cool or really nerdy. So nerdy it's not uncool, but then so uncoolly nerdy it's cool again. That if you know the game of Sabak's rules, so you can go to your friends or just the random guy on the left and go, hey, I know the rules to this game. And then if you don't know them, they're going to leave. And then you get legroom. I'm not even nerdy enough to know the rules of Sabak off the top of my head. I know Gwent though. I've got the Gwent card games. Awesome. So I'm going to read them to you. The basic rules of classic Sabak is to achieve a card total closest to 0. There are more details to it, like amount of cards in your deck and how they're separated into 4 types, but it requires another video to tell you everything. Shit, I hope I don't have to do that. But what's more interesting is Han and Lando played a different kind of Sabak, Corellian Spike. This one's actually played with the bonus dice. And back to it. In this version, when cards are dealt, every player must do their required actions, and the dealer rolls the dice. The result of the dice decides what players should do, whether to drop hand or do another action. And it was using this beloved pair of golden dice Han won the crucial game of Sabak and won the Millennium Falcon. They're also the golden dice I believe you see in the little trailer. So that's your daily dose of Star Wars done for today. Don't know why I came in for the outro, but fuck it, we're rolling with it. We're doing it live. Well, it was not live because this is probably recorded a couple days before you've seen it. But speaking of seen it, when I've seen the film, I'm probably going to bring out a video on my thoughts if you're interested in that. I've got some pretty high expectations for the film, and frankly, I'm a bit worried for it. But we're going to see. We're going to see, fingers crossed. If Deadpool can have a sequel that's better than the original, hopefully we can have a Han Solo film that works. This has been Michael with Vsauce, and I'll see you later.